call to the microphone from New York City, Joe Bello, to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And now a special treat. One of our panelists is multi-talented. Not only is he going to speak on our panel, but he has a beautiful singing voice. So at this time, I would like to call Gerard Classy up to the podium to sing the Star Spangled Banner.
Could you raise the track? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly and the twilight's lights gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watched was so gallantly streaming, and the rapids red the bombs bursting gave through the night that our flag was still there.
I don't know how we top that. I'd like to ask Mayor Sean Patterson Howard for a few comments.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to the Dole Center. We're glad you're here. This is probably one of our last, we're going to get about a $3-4 million renovation in a few months. So we're excited about that. But I want to say thank you so much to our Congressman, George Latimer, a good son of Mount Vernon, who always comes back and to make, to ensure that we are receiving the resources and information that our community needs and that all of our residents and stakeholders deserve. We want to thank all of the panelists for coming and sharing your information and expertise. I want to give a special round of applause to our Director of Veterans Service Agency, Director Andrea Molina, a good veteran and a Marine, right tell you she's a Marine, because if you don't, you get in trouble. But here in the city of Mount Vernon, we have been very, very committed to continuing to expand and deepen the work that we're doing and how we're engaging our veterans. We have our Veterans Advisory. We have Mr. Commander Calvin Parker. He is the commander of one of our VFW posts here. He is a Purple Heart recipient, and he has been a leader in providing veteran services and support. Here in our community, we have a few of our veterans here, but he is one of our VFW post commanders. So in the city of Mount Vernon, whether it is our incredible Director Melina, ensuring that over $10 million, and when you're talking about a four square mile community, $10 million is a lot of money that she was able to tap into for veterans and their families last year so that they could get benefits and expand their benefits. She has been a proponent of not only serving our veterans, but our Gold Star mothers, as well as our families who are supporting their loved ones while they're in active service, or for those who unfortunately we have lost. But one of the focuses that we have really drilled down into is mental health counseling. And so while we have peer counseling, we also have professional counseling available as well through our vet center. And we know, I've been a social worker for almost 40 years now. And so one of the things that I know is about the mental health and the substance abuse needs that have often impacted our veterans community. And so for us to be able to expand those type of services so that people can come all the way home, so that people can sleep well at night, so that they can be emotionally and mentally available to their families, so that they don't have to suffer in silence and get caught up in addiction and die from suicide when they survive the war, but can't always survive a war in their spirit and in their minds. So we are very proud of the mental health services and the wraparound services that we are providing our veterans. I'm excited about this panel because we've already had conversations with, the housing leader for veterans in New York City and our Gold Star wife who is providing services for families, and we know Kevin Megan, right? And so today there's going to be a panel, but even with the panel, we know that more partnerships, deeper partnerships will be created because if affordability is challenging for everyday Americans, then we know affordability and housing challenges and the cost of utilities and changing priorities are very, very much a challenge for our veterans. And so while I will not be able to stay with you today, excuse my dress, I'm off. But it was so important that I just came and stopped by and provided support to this very important moment. We're glad to see our Aisha Castleberry and Hernandez, and who I know is working on the Veterans Task Force, and who has been a good friend to us here in Mount Vernon. We're just excited, Congressman Latimer, about your leadership and how we can support you in ensuring that our veterans are getting the best of us and not just the rest of what we have after we've served everyone else. They put the country first, and the country has to make sure, and in our local communities at a subnational level, we have to make sure that we are putting our veterans front and center. So thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing roundtable discussion, and please let deep, authentic, and impactful partnerships in service to our veterans community come out of this day. God bless you. And with that being said, I'm going to bring up our distinguished Congressman George Latimer, CD 16, so we thank you. CD 16, I wanted to make sure. CD 16, our Congressman Latimer. Come on, you can come on. Is no stranger, from serving on the state level and then being our county executive and going down to Washington, D.C. in a time of tumult. So when we talk about we're living in a VUCA environment, and VUCA stands for volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And when you're operating in a VUCA environment, you need leaders who know how to navigate a VUCA environment by having vision, understanding, clarity, and agility to move and pivot to address the shifting world that we're living in. And Congressman Latter, you are that person. You are keen and clear-eyed, you have clear focus, and he sends us his updates on a regular basis as he stands in Washington to represent our collective needs. And today, he's here to support our veterans. So with that being said, I want to thank you, Congressman Latimer, and present and introduce you all to the distinguished Congressman and servant, George Latimer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a great honor to be in my hometown, with the mayor of my hometown, and those of you who are here in this panel. I want to share a couple of thoughts before we start the program, but before I do that, I have a few recognitions that I want to make sure that I make. First of all, I want to show appreciation for the people on our team that helped put this together. We made a decision last year to create citizen task forces. And these are people who are doing work without compensation. And they are putting time and energy and effort in a number of different areas of public policy. This is an outgrowth of our Veterans Task Force in that area. We have 6 other ones, and 2 of the chairs of those task forces are here today. Kevin Megan, who is the head of this task force. He has served this nation honorably and with great distinction, and he's serving this nation now in the work that he does. He's done advocacy work before this opportunity, and now this panel is just one part of the things that Kevin does. Kevin, I thank you for your voluntary service to do these things. I also want to thank, just introduced a second ago, Asha Castleberry Hernandez. She also is a distinguished veteran of military service. We have her responsible for the foreign affairs and military affairs portion of our Citizen Task Force. And as Sean said, I've been active in government for a number of different levels. I started out as a city councilman in my current home community, did a lot of other things. Foreign affairs and military affairs was not my sweet spot. So I turned to Asha, who's an author of great ability and has written intellectually about these issues to help chair a committee, as we do have her talent. And Asha, thank you very much for being with us here today.
Welcome, George.
Thank you, dear. We have some members of Kevin's task force that are here. They're not on the panel, but they work with him on this task force. I'm not sure who's standing, but please stand up to be recognized. Unless the rest of them. Both stand up, please. Thank you both very much for your service. We appreciate that voluntary work. We also have, you're going to be introduced on the panel in a second, Josh Gassione, who is currently serving in county government as the Director of Veterans Affairs. And Josh is doing an excellent job, an elected official in his own right. But there's a person who's also served in that position under prior administration. He and I served together in the Westchester County Legislature. He has served his nation, and he has served his town, and his village, and his county admirably. Vito Pinto, please. Completing the honorific portion of this program, I'm deeply indebted to Rob Hawk, who's my Senior Director of Policy, for his work in coordinating these things. Ellen Hendricks is our District Office Director here in Westchester County. Tremaine Darrow is our Bronx Director, and he also has some coverage of Mount Vernon. Tremaine, thank you for being here today. And Michelle Gawanter, Tara Conti, a part of my team, and have done an excellent job in putting this on. Thank you. Michelle had a little bit of up and down and headaches and everything else. So here we are. We made it, Michelle. We're good, you know. And they've been ably assisted by Anna Haig, who's the newest member of our team and a bright, shining light. We're very happy to have her here as well. So I'm grateful for all of those people that I've named. And sometimes when you hear that happen, you think, well, you know, you got to do that. I can't tell you how much I rely on these people to do the things that they do so well. And anytime you see a public official out there, they're taking all the praise. Don't kid yourself. There's a bunch of people behind them that are helping them frame things, teaching them things they don't know, Kevin to George, and helping us try to get public policy right. So those folks who are here, and I know those of you who are here also have other responsibilities I'm grateful for. If you want to understand why this is an important session today. All you have to do is take a walk around the block. It's been mentioned that I grew up here. I grew up on the south side of Mount Vernon. I'm proud of that I'm a south side boy a few years ago. But I went to what we now call middle school. We call junior high school, 3 blocks up from here on 2nd Street and 6th Avenue. And I grew up about 10 blocks from here, walkable distance. Used to walk down this way all the time when I'd go to various places, boys club, 1 block down, the things you know when you grew up in the neighborhood. But if you walk around this block, you'll pass a firehouse that was built maybe 50 years ago. It still looks pretty new. It was a major thing when it was built because it provides fire services in the heart of the South Side. And it was named after 2 young people who were a little older than I was, 5, 6 years older than I was, both of whom died in Vietnam. They were privates. One of them I knew a little bit better than the other, John Howard Griffith. The other one, Private Valentino. Their names are on the firehouse, and they're honored with that. And for a boy who grew up just slightly too young to go to Vietnam, I was in the draft and they didn't call anybody up from that point in time on, so I didn't go. But they did, and they gave their lives. And when they gave their lives, I think of everything that's happened to me, not necessarily, being in public office stuff, but just the normal stuff. That I was alive long enough to graduate high school, to go to college, to get that first job, to get married, to be father of a child, to be there to comfort my parents in their old age. All of those things, those 2 men sacrificed in Vietnam. And we put their name on a building, and unfortunately I bet many people don't think much of who they were and how they lived their lives, or what would have been of their lives had they lived, had they come back from Vietnam. And so that is the sacrifice that I think of when I think of anybody that puts on the uniform of the country and goes into service. Anybody who hasn't served, and I didn't serve, has to start out with that scene in Officer and Gentleman where Lou Gossett is the drill sergeant and he gets in Richard Gere's face. You gotta be of a certain age to remember that. If you're too young, some of you are too young for that. You have to watch it on TV Land or something. But when he starts right in Richard Gere's face, you say to yourself, man, I went through that. 13 weeks of that. Shave all my hair off. But that's only the beginning. Because you never know. You never know what the service is going to require you to do. In a moment's notice, you might be a Marine in the barracks at Beirut when a bomber comes and kills 241 of you while you sleep at night. You might be one of the people that lost their lives in Desert Storm. Desert Shield that became Desert Storm. We all treat that as a successful action to remove Iraq from Kuwait back in 1991. 79 people lost their lives there. And we've lost 13 or so people, maybe a little more than that now, in this recent action in Iran. These are lives that are lost because as a person who voluntarily went into the military, you took on the willingness to serve your country and you risked death. And you risked it at a young age when you have so much to live for. Now, that arrangement that we make with a person, when they say, yes, come and serve the country, serve whatever your length of service is, we make a commitment that you have made among the highest sacrifices that you can make as an American. And if you live and you come home, we owe you things. We don't owe you everything, but we owe you respect because you made that sacrifice that the average civilian did not make. And when we talk about what are veteran services, what are veterans affairs, I'm in the government and I realize we're woefully short of what we should be doing. And I'm not here to criticize, you get a lot of that stuff going on now in politics. This roundtable is so we can identify the things that we can do better, to try to push to get those better things done, to do something positive to help those people, to make sure that the veterans, there's some in the audience, there are many more outside this room, that they have the kind of resources that they should have, and where they have during their service suffered physical injury, or they have emotional or mental scars that come out of that service, that we treat them with love and respect, as well as with resources. I'm going to close by saying I just heard one of the most stirring examples of the national anthem that I can imagine. Made even more unbelievable by the fact that most of us mouth the words to the song because it goes up and down in range, and we can't even come close to hitting the notes normally, and you blew it out of the house. But I think of the national anthem because of what it actually means. And many times we do things by rote. Sometimes when I go to my religious services, I know what the ritual response is, and you just kind of do it by memory. You're not even thinking, you're thinking about, oh, I hope the Knicks win game 4 and they're going to be eliminated. You know, those kind of things go through your mind, and you should be thinking about what you're saying. And the Star Spangled Banner, the first 2/3 of it talks about the battle in the harbor of Baltimore in the War of 1812, where Fort McHenry, which is a rise above the harbor, the Brits were trying to take over that point so they could then do damage into Baltimore Harbor. They had burned Washington. I'm giving you history, it's not on the final. And this was a significant battle in the War of 1812. We don't think about the War of 1812 many times. We do Revolution, Civil War, and we forget that that came in the middle of it. And the first 2/3 of the song is about, is the flag still there? That means, have we still held the position? Are we still having Americans protecting the harbor of Baltimore and thereby winning the War of 1812? But the last third of the song is what really matters to me. Because Key, Francis Scott Key, says, "Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave over the land of the free and the home of the brave?" He's asking the future generations. He didn't live to see the Civil War, much less Spanish Red War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. He wasn't there, but he projected ahead. Will that flag still be the symbol of a free country? And he combines two thoughts, freedom and bravery. That without the brave, you will not be free. And that's true. And the men and the women who have voluntarily agreed to go into this military service, they are the ones that Key looks at through the ages and said, yes, you stepped up. You made a commitment. You put your life on the line. You put your life on hold. You're a 22-year-old young man or woman. Man, the world isn't your oyster, partying and carrying on. No, you're in the military. You're doing something for your country. I think about that when I hear brothers sing like that. That's what Key wanted us to think about. Are we still the land of the free and the home of the brave? We'll be the land of the free if we understand that it will take the land of the brave. And how do we influence that 18, 19, 20, 20-year-old person to make that sacrifice? By the way we treat the people that made that sacrifice already. If they see that we value veterans, you don't use the military to go into military settings for military things and then cut the VA so that the people who served before have less access to the services. You're not saying the message to today's military person, we value their service for the years to come. So our panel today will discuss the details of those issues. I appreciate their professionalism. We're going to be introduced to them now. And I'm personally grateful that you're here. And out of this, we hope, through the committee that exists, we'll have very specific things that we can support in Washington, that we can encourage, and I hope we can find ways to do this bipartisanly, so that it's not just this party versus that party, that we're all Americans. Thank you very much for your service.
Okay. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I want to thank everyone for being here. I want to introduce our panelists. In fact, I think I'm going to come off script a little bit, and I'm going to have the panelists, in 45 seconds or less, introduce themselves. Starting over here. Yes, sir.
My name is Jeff Brown. I'm a retired pediatrician. I served in Vietnam as an infantry battalion surgeon, and I've been interested in Veterans Affairs for since the time that I became a veteran. So I would like to just say something as a private citizen rather than as a panelist. I just want to thank George Latimer and all of his staff for watching our backs, both as civilians and for the kind of care that we're getting, and in a legislative way to make sure that veterans are getting care that they should be receiving. So I want to thank all of you and the staff for doing such a good job.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Pablo Sanchez Branco. I'm a psychiatrist with, right now, in Northwell Health. I work
the road at Phelps. I'm also colonel in the Army National Guard, commissioned in 2008, and I have a few tours in the Middle East. As Dr. Roundtable was saying, I want to thank Congressman Latimer and especially Judge Everett, who was the one who articulated the connection with this opportunity. He's presided and be a leader in the Veterans Treatment Corps and a pivotal initiative that hopefully we'll have a little bit of time to talk about during the panel. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
inviting me here.
Good morning. My name is Donnie Smalls. Congressman, distinguished guests, thank you for having me. I'm the Executive Director of Housing and Supportive Services at the New York City Department of Veteran Services. I am also a retired Army combat veteran. I spent over 13 years in the U.S. Army. I would love to say thank you for having me here for this panel, and I look forward to your questions.
Good morning. I am Dr. Mecca Nelson, Gold Star spouse of the amazing Sergeant Mario Nelson, who was killed in Iraq October 1st, 2006. Yeah. And I'm here honoring him as well as other families like myself. Also, I am Vice Chair for the New York City Veteran Advisory Board, and just recently I am Chair of the NAACP Armed Forces and Veteran Affairs Committee. But on top of that, I also advocate for our military families and our veterans, and not just Gold Star families, but White Star and Silver Star families. And I would say what White Star is, White Star families are the family members that their soldier died by suicide, and our Silver Stars, half the time, we don't even know that you're Silver Star. Silver Star families are our veterans that are inside this room. They're Silver Star families, and they're not being honored and recognized, and that's what I do. I bring awareness to that work. And I just want to say that I'm thankful, I'm grateful for being here. Thank you for thinking about me and giving this opportunity. And I kind of want to give a shout out to my daughter right now because she just graduated the academy today, and she's a deputy sheriff in a different state, not out here. Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Josh Gaccione. I'm the Director of Veteran Services for Westchester County. 50 pounds ago, I was a paratrooper in the United States Army. I served in Afghanistan in 2001 and Iraq in 2002. And I am twice removed from Guido Pinto's position here at the county. So it's good to be able to pick up that mantle and to be able to move forward with that. I look forward to the discussion that we're going to have today because we need all the input that we can have from the community to be able to serve our veterans. Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrea Molina. I'm the Director of Veteran Services for the great city of Mount Vernon. And just like Josh, 60 pounds ago, a United States Marine, active duty. I was there for OIF 1 for the invasion and again in OIF 3. I also led the Dwyer program, the Joseph E. Dwyer Suicide Prevention Peer-to-Peer program for over 10 years with the support of Uncle Vito and my brother Josh Gaccione. That was the very beginning. And now I'm a VSO and also the director for the Veteran Service Agency of Mount Vernon. And nothing says thank you for your service like affording us, thank you, Mr. Latimer, the ability to connect and air our grievances. So thank you.
My name is Gerard Placid. I am a United States Army veteran, an international vocalist. Had the privilege to move around 71 different countries. I sing in 5 different languages. And I'm alive today because of individuals like my mentor, Asha Kasaberi, my friends, Donnie Small, and also Kevin Megan. I'm from the Caribbean, and so my heart and my pulse has been using the medium of music. I got to this country a mere 29 years ago, after living on the streets in the Caribbean, got discovered there, was sent to England, sang for the Queen of England, and through the Duchess of York, they provided an opportunity for me to come to America. I came here, connected with Joe Biden in Delaware. I enlisted in the United States Army. Congressman Latimer, I thank you so much. Asha, that video that you sent me with the congressman on the floor speaking about how we should treat our allies was sent to the CARICOM heads of government this morning. I had Rob Finch speak this morning face-to-face via WhatsApp from the opposition leader of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. They're coming up here and excited, looking forward to meeting with the congressman. Thank you.
I want to thank each and every one of you guys for your introduction. My name is Kevin Megan, United States Navy veteran, Gulf War combat veteran, and veteran advocate. My advocacy comes out of necessity. I was a single father, 3 young kids, experiencing at that time homelessness. Went into a program called Homeless Veterans Reintegration Program, where I was able to catch up to my arrears. Lost 2 jobs at the time. I started working for that program and spent close to 15 years in that program. And when I left, I actually was the director of the program that I came in for services for. So it's a pleasure to be here. I'm very well versed when it comes to the needs of veterans, because I was that needy veteran. So without further ado, we're going to jump right into what we're here for. All right? So the VA plans to eliminate up to 35,000 mostly unfilled healthcare jobs, including roles for doctors, nurse, mental health staff, and support teams, while leaders say that these cuts are part of cleaning up post-COVID staffing errors. Critics warn that the system already faces shortage, burnouts, and long wait times, and that reducing staff could hurt veteran care. At the same time, the administration is pushing more veterans towards private health care, raising concerns about whether the VA is shifting from fully staffed system to a more referral network. Okay? First question is to Josh, and then I would like to hear from Donna and Andrea as well. What are you seeing in terms of challenges for veterans seeking to navigate the VA healthcare system today?
Sure, thanks. The first thing I want to say is here in the county, just at the county agency, not including the Mount Vernon City Agency or the Yonkers City Agency, we're assisting over 1,000 veterans a year. And whether that's with referrals or claims or pensions or something along those lines. And somebody who's doing a lot of that heavy lifting is Travis Melby. Travis, raise your hand. Travis is also an Iraq vet, Army, and we're actually in Iraq together at the same time, which is interesting in how that turns out. So you bring up a lot of interesting things, and change really happens at events like this. It happens at coffee shops, in one-on-one conversations, sometimes in American Legions or VFWs, if that's where you are. And the thing is that no political party, and I'm an elected official as well, no political party has a monopoly on foolishness, right? And the same thing comes to serving our veterans. Nobody has a monopoly on that. But at the same time, the VA cannot duck its responsibilities. There was a group of us who met last week with the Secretary of the VA, and he's a great speaker, I have to say that if you ever meet him. A Southern Baptist preacher, he can talk, and he can talk well. And he made the 30,000 job cuts to the VA, sound like something I wanted to support, right? But who's getting cut? It's the people who are making who are scheduling the appointments. It's the doctors, it's the specialists, it's the nurses, it's the vital people that veterans need. In our VFW just recently, we had somebody who had to travel from here, an 80-year-old man who had to travel from here to New Haven for an appointment. To New Haven. Now for me, I mean, I'm into it. I'll rock out, I'll listen, I'll be fine, but we should not be having to do that for appointments. You know, we fund the VA, we fund the VA well, and we should make sure that these issues and these problems are being brought up, not only to our congressmen, but on our local level and on our national level. So I'll stop there, and I'm sure we'll have more to address with that.
Thank you.
Donette?
I'm going to pivot on a different scale. For us, we see a lot of people not wanting to self-identify or just don't know that they're eligible for VA services due to their time in service, reserve, National Guard. You know, a lot of people don't think they served enough time in to seek those services at the VA. So one of the things that I think that we really have to, you know, like educate veterans on is self-identification. Going and just trying to see if they're eligible. Because if you don't know or don't know, you really don't know. You know, you have to go, you have to see, and that's one of the things that we do is try to educate veterans that even though you think you didn't serve long enough or serve during a period of war, you still can be eligible for services at the VA.
Adrian?
So not only as an advocate, I use the VA for myself, so there is no guessing here. Day in and day out, I notice that some of the cuts are completely irrational. How can you cut your psychiatrics, mental health, your medical care, and still have voluntary services? It really doesn't make sense to me. And how could you tell me with a straight face that my mental health therapy went from an hour to 45 minutes to 30 minutes to go away and come back when you're suicidal? It's completely unacceptable. Fortunately, you know, I've weathered this whole storm because I've worked in this network, but someone else doesn't have that fortunate experience, right? And we're still seeing veteran suicide. The other part is we have a lack of geriatric services. How can you have 2 social workers, let's say for example, out of the Bronx VA, and they're caring for Lower Westchester? The Bronx is enormous. That's not enough. That's not enough. And then you have maybe what? 1 working physician in geriatric services? Unacceptable. The same thing with enrolling in healthcare. You can fill out a form, a 1010, and then wait a year maybe to wait to be called up to have a doctor call you to come in for assignment of a primary physician. And then moving on to doing everything online. What about people that are not tech savvy? We have a lot of young people that are not interested, right? And then we also have the elderly, telehealth, enrolling in healthcare, messaging doctors, communicating. Because, you know, if you've ever tried to call the VA, some of those numbers are never picked up, or you're transferred somewhere else. It's a whole fiasco with the phone system. If you've ever tried to reach a doctor, they tell you, well, use the VA.gov. What if you're older? What if you're in your 90s? What if you don't own a computer? So all these things are leaving lots of different veterans behind.
Thank you so much. Okay, my next question is going to be for Dr. Jeff and Dr. Sanchez. What are the fundamental concerns you have today about delivering services and the level of care available to veterans?
I would, my specific area of interest is really trying to boil down the moving parts of veterans getting good health care. One of the things that we have noticed is that a lot of the difficulty starts at the very beginning. First is that veterans often aren't identified to doctors that are taking care of them. This becomes especially important because as the VA starts to outsource more and more medical care, civilian doctors are going to be taking care of veterans, and many of them don't identify patients who have served in the military. So the starting point is getting veterans identified to medical personnel. The second component that starts at a very basic level is that most physicians don't know how to take a basic military health history. And so even after they've identified a patient who is a veteran, and even after the patient comes in and says I'm a veteran, they frequently have no idea what questions to ask. Very often they feel frightened. They're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing. They're afraid they're going to say to somebody, have you ever killed anybody? When in fact, taking a basic military health history is actually very simple and straightforward. And most of the courses that are being taught for physicians as to how to deal with veterans focus on things that really are not important. Doctors, for example, don't need to know the difference between a non-commissioned officer and a commissioned officer, or somebody in the reserves or somebody on active duty. They just need to know how military service might affect that veteran later on. And the last thing is that we would like to see medical schools start to include military health history in their standard teaching curriculum. And we would also like to see that doctors, about 60% of doctors in the United States, rotate through the VA as part of their medical training. But even those doctors rotating through the VA are not required to take a course in basic military health history. We would like to see that changed as well. We'll just save for discussion a little bit later some of the other things that can be addressed, but starting at the very basic level, doctors need to know when patients are veterans, and they need to know what questions to ask them once they become a patient.
Well, I mean, I think the panel is hitting all the critical points, and one common theme is that this list of challenges are not just isolated, but reflecting the complexity of the nature of the problems and challenges that the veterans and their families face when seeking care. It's important to understand that veterans or family members of a veteran that requires care, they never come with an isolated event. It's a very complex, intricate set of circumstances. I would like to add a couple of things briefly describe. One is definitely there's a challenge with the workforce and the provider burned out. And in addition to that, we live in a fast-paced world. And remember, I stayed in my first job, I think it was like 12 years. And now you see that providers change from, not for any particular reason, jobs every year and a half, every 2 years. That creates additional burden to the understanding of this complex problem. The other aspect, we talk about access, and we alluded to the challenges in cultural sensitivity when addressing the veteran population. There's also an element of trust that is critical to understand. In general, Americans are mistrustful of federal agencies. I think the National Park Service is the most trusted agency, and the NASA, which probably after like the Artemis mission is up the roof. But what is interesting about the VA, speaking of the VA, is that, and I will elaborate more on the solution part, is that things can be done and things work. Trust now in the VA system by VA consumers of services, it's pretty high, it's on the 90s. Healthcare trust at an individual level, it's about 90. And what is unique about this aspect is that trust is not institutional alone, it's personal. It's my relationship with my experience with the front desk, shout out to my front desk, to the best. The nurse, the provider, the person who greets you, the security agent, and that is where we need to look. You know, we need to think of, we need to earn that trust, not take it for granted because someone is eligible or someone has a good healthcare insured carrier that covers your services.
Thank you. All right, our next question is going to go to Gerard Classic and Dr. Mecca. Okay. What are the experiences and fundamental challenges have you faced with healthcare as a veteran or a Gold Star spouse?
As polished as I am today, I may appear still in therapy. As a veteran, my suicide attempts were 9. On top of that, the cultural insensitivity of some of these doctors and counselors really had pushed me to the brink. I found myself living on the train for years, been living in a room. I hadn't finished school. It was the encouragement of fellow veterans, people like Donnie, people like Asha, people like Kevin, who looked beyond my scars, and they've been doing all that they can to assist individuals like me. I came out in 2010, suffered 2 heart attacks, lost my daughter, lost my father, and even after my divorce, lost everything. So for me, while it has been challenging, during that time, I saw the issues many of my fellow veterans were facing, and that's one of the things that in 2018 sent me for the first time in this country to go do my GED. I would jump on to my associates, my bachelor's, and recently completed a master's in political science, keeping with my mental health issue a consistent 3.7 to 3.9 GPA.
Yeah.
Policy is my heart. And it was one of the reasons why I went and did political science. So that I can move from being an individual who just moves on emotions, but one to where I can strategically look at ways and means, issues that would be data-driven answers. So I'm in a better place today because of my colleagues. Thank you.
Boy, can I tell a story now? My experience was very different, I would say. But the drive, the same drive that my friend over here just spoke about, pushed me to learn more about politics and civic engagement. And when you experience certain things, it actually pushes you to do it. Yes. I love you, my friend. I love you.
It's all right, brother.
I love you, man. You're doing the thing. You're doing the thing. Yeah. And yes, we need that. And with my story, it's more of having doctors be unaware of what a Gold Star family is and saying congratulations. Yeah. Oftentimes when they say congratulations, it's a look that they give you when you look at them a certain way. And when you explain to them, but now they had no issues with you, never asked you if you was okay, is everything good, do you need help? But once they found out Gold Star, that you lost your husband killed in combat, or you lost your family killed in combat, now they want to ask, after you address the fact that, do you know what it means? And when you explain what it means, now they want to be concerned, do you need help? Do you need somebody to talk to? Is everything okay? After they done said congratulations, as if they're waiting for you to be triggered. Now, not everybody is able to handle that. That's a punch in the stomach to me. Years ago, it was a heavy punch for me. Now, I just speak about it, and I explain it, and I educate them. But some doesn't know how to say, they don't know how to say, I apologize, thank you for educating me. That's the part where it would be better. And the sad part is, one doctor is an actual, one of the doctors I encountered is a reserve in the military, and he didn't know what a Gold Star was. So I find that concerning. You know, it's very concerning when our own military don't know what Gold Star is. And it's bothersome. And also referrals. With me going to the doctor, they tell me that I need a referral. Whether it's an allergy doctor, whatever doctor I gotta go to. They tell me I need a referral. I don't really need a referral. You know, I have to explain to them over the phone multiple times. And they still don't believe me. I need to go. I don't need a doctor referral because when my husband was alive, I needed a referral. Now that he's deceased and I'm a Gold Star spouse, I don't need a referral. My coverage is very different. And then they go back and forth on the phone with me as if they don't believe me. Then I have to wait and wait and wait for them to find out that I don't need a referral, as if I'm lying. I do believe that needs to be changed across the board. Not in one spot, not in one space, but across the board. And also in regards to parents, when it comes to the parents, what I've also experienced is that we have a Gold Star mother that is paralyzed, and she's not able to go in and out of her house, and she's basically stuck in her house, and she needs someone to carry her down the stairs. And I said that there needs to be some type of help for them, because she needs that lift for the chair, to bring her chair up and down so she can leave out the house when she wants to and not always wait for somebody to lift and carry her. She could have came here today, but she couldn't because she needs somebody to lift and carry her. So those are the concerns that I feel that is very important, and it needs to change across the board, not in one space, but in multiple spaces. Like my friend here said, nationally, Josh said nationally, it needs to be done nationally, because that could trigger someone and make them go back to wherever they was at one point, because that can happen. You can be triggered and shift back and go into a little hole that you was in, because I was in a little hole, but I'm not no more. And you can't trigger me to make me go back, because it's not gonna happen.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Michael. Earlier when I started off, I was talking about how the VA's plan is to eliminate 35,000 jobs. A lot of nurses and physicians have already taken a buy. I believe it's up to 30. So now the number, I believe, was the goal is supposed to be 80,000 in total that they want to roll back and scale back. And yes, I met Secretary of the VA twice, Josh, and he does speak very. You would, if you listen to him, he would convince you to vote against your best interest. But I don't pay attention to what people say. I pay attention to what people do. What the VA proposes is to roll back the service that they receive, that they provide for us back to 2019, when in fact we are growing in the veteran community. We're not too much liked around the world. I'm kind of getting ready to jump in your world, Asha. We're not very much well liked around the world. So a lot of these bases are proposing that we leave. And where are these veterans leaving to? They're coming back home. We're not getting, our numbers are not reflecting 2019, they're reflecting 2026, 2027 reality, which is going to be much, much greater. And I'm afraid that the VA is not going to be able to handle the influx of new veterans that are coming in, notwithstanding the crisis in Iran. So with that said, I believe every problem has a solution. If there's no solution, there's no problem. So that's what I want to talk about now. Problem solving. I'm going to come right back to you, Dr. I know you are. Okay. So let me see. What would you like to see? What would you like to see that would make your healthcare experience? And after you, then I'm going to ask you as well, Gerard. What would you like to see that makes your healthcare experience much better in the VA?
Honestly, they need to train all faculties, all doctors, administrative, all of them inside the hospitals dealing with medical about our demographics, how to speak to us. Not just the families, but the veterans, right? How to communicate with us, how to show some type of empathy, but create a curriculum, a comprehensive plan that circles around it. Don't get somebody that don't know anything about military families or veterans. If you want to make something happen and make it powerful and impactful, you find us. We can tell you what needs to be done. What I find is that normally they go outside to go get other people, right, my friend? Yes. They go outside and they say, well, where did that come from? That has nothing to do with us. They don't even understand us. The language that's there is as if it was just put on a piece of paper just to look good to say that we did it. So a curriculum that has our demographics and how to communicate with us and understand our demographics and understand our health coverages, to not make it where we got to go back and forth. Because that day when I was on the phone with them about my allergy doctor, the girl lied to me 3 times and then thought I wasn't paying attention. And I just got so fed up. I said, it's okay, I'm not going to come in today. So that part is the communication language. And everywhere I go, and I think Danae can vouch that everywhere I go, I always speak about the language. Language is very important. Language. And it's how you communicate to us. And it's what you do that makes the difference. Because this is why you don't see too many of us in too many places. And this is why, just like my friend Danae said, we don't say that we really are Gold Star. It took me years to say that I was a Gold Star spouse. I stayed quiet. I could sit right in a room and they have a conversation I would never speak. And it's because it's either uninviting, no understanding, lack of awareness, and they don't take their time to really get to know you as a person. So that is what I would say that's wrapped around that space there. It's what they could do better. And thank you.
Sure. This administration has had it in for us for a long time in terms of privatizing the VA. So it shouldn't come as any surprise. Now, one of the things that impedes veterans from even going in to identify with a lot of their issues is the bureaucracy. When you go in, be it for services or anything else, it's always red tape. And having worked at the VA for 3 years as an intern, one of the things that I found myself doing is sitting with many of my colleagues and sharing my story. And by the time I was finished, I was drained, yes, but I was also encouraging them to move beyond. And so I was an advocate at New York Harbor Healthcare under the Chief of Business, Kurt Lewis and Martina Peruva. And while I couldn't do anything much, I was always making recommendations where they could look at ways and means of pushing. This falls too on legislators. I'm starting to think that the more we push, the more we be ignored. But it shouldn't stop us. With all these cuts that is actually ongoing right now, the onus still falls on those of us like myself who can attest to things like cognitive behavioral therapy and pushing for more of these medical and mental health counselors. It's needed. It is needed. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to continue to push. And so should all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. So my next question is going to Dr. Jeff and Dr. Sanchez. As healthcare providers, what are solutions and responses that you would like to see?
So, again, I would go back to try to look at what the low-hanging fruit is. Getting things changed within the VA, and it turns out to be like the old example is turning the battleship around. It is really, really difficult. So I think the starting places are to look at places where we can actually get something accomplished fairly quickly. The first would be, as I mentioned before, 60% of medical school graduates rotate through the VA, which means that we can require that they learn how to take military health history. The other advantage to that is that these people rotating through the VA would be giving better care to the veterans, and they also would be more interested in what they're doing. And it may also serve for recruiting for the VA. So that's one place that should start. There is an Office of Academic Affiliations at the VA, which is supposed to be coordinating these things. But my past experience with them was that they were doing a lot of foot dragging, but now it's a different administration, and I don't know whether they will be receptive. The second thing that we need to do is to get more veterans into the system. One place to do that is to include asking patients whether they are veterans when they sign up for insurance plans or when they go into the hospital. The reason for doing that is that if you make the hospital and the insurance plans veterans friendly, they actually will have a financial incentive to locate these veterans, because it means that if somebody comes into the hospital uninsured and they are eligible for veterans benefits, it means that that diabetic patient will be able to get their insulin free through the VA, be less likely to be readmitted, in which case the hospital would not be done because they're having more frequent readmissions. So those are two places right off the bat that I think need to be changed. And I think that there is also an important thing to, I think that a lot of the press that has been put out regarding veterans has a tendency to be very negative. Yes. In the sense that they're talking about people that have psychological disabilities, people that are committing suicide. It makes it sound as if the veterans who are coming out are all damaged in one way or another. And I think that our public relations should focus more on the assets that veterans bring to the community. They have organizational skills. They're used to functioning under extremely difficult situations and so forth. And I think that we should try to publicize the fact that veterans should be hired because they have skills that other people don't have. It's not all negative as it's currently being portrayed.
Thank you.
You know, my thoughts is in a general sense, the solutions are right in front of our face. And in that sense, I'm optimistic. A commission in 2008 talked about the exposure to different stages of how we've been handling health crisis, specifically for me in my field, behavioral health crisis, substance use disorder crisis, etc. But I think that if we focus on incentivizing, promoting integrated care, initiatives that improve the access of veterans and families to services that are coordinated. And what I want to elaborate a little bit is the social determinants of health. Those are like the non-medical variables that contribute to the outcome. We physicians, any healthcare provider will tell you this, that two individuals with the same diagnosis that receive the same level of care will have completely different outcomes depending on factors that include housing, finances, relationship, access to technology, transportation. And that aspect includes also, I mentioned early on, the legal aspect. You know, our veterans oftentimes get in trouble. And initiatives like the Veterans Treatment Court that identify a risk population and divert them to the right venue so they can receive the assistance that they need and they deserve is what helps to not just manage illnesses and symptoms, but really restore function, stability, dignity, and quality of life for those that have served and their families. I wanna hone in on trust. You know, there's already initiatives that are really impactful and they're making a difference. Improving the healthcare experience includes being part of it. You know, the 20th century Cures Act, which includes elements in which like health records are by default available to recipients of care. It's critical because in real time you have visibility of what's going on with the care. You have a voice to correct, to direct. The other aspect which I think we have some work to do is transparency when it comes to the financial side of healthcare. It creates silence, it creates suspicion, it creates, debate about what system is better, what system is profiteering from what. And the reality is we all want the same thing. I work in a civilian system. I work for the Department of Defense in the Defense Health Agency, and I serve as a psychiatrist in the Army National Guard. So I've seen the different models. We all want the same thing. We want dignified, effective interventions that help with restoring of the functioning or improvement of the functioning. There's a problem with insurance company, and I think where our policymakers have, a responsibility to help us to integrate that into the process. We spend hours trying to get that referrals that maybe you don't need, or approve a medication that you've been taking for 10 years and suddenly your plan changed overnight. These are the kind of things that as a consumer, knowing how much this is costing, how much, this perception, just give you like a quick number. TRICARE for a 30-minute med management with a little bit of psychotherapy would reimburse the facility about $130. those 30 minutes cost the facility about $300. So there's no profit, at least in that sense of transaction. It's important that we understand how that works, because it's there where we can articulate what needs to happen and invite the consumer of healthcare services to the conversation.
Thank you so much for that. Before I get to my next question, I just want to piggyback off of something Donna said earlier about self-identifying. I believe that the federal government, the state, and the cities should have, when you're filling out applications and different government forms, I believe that the word veteran should be there. It makes that type of work easier, because the reason that I feel a lot of these cuts are looming over us is because a lot of veterans aren't self-identifying and they're feeling as if they're not utilizing the VA. And there are probably tons of veterans out there that just don't self-identify. Normally I have my Navy hat on. I put it on because my children hate it, by the way. And, but I wear it because it's a form of advertising. And it allows me to communicate and let another veteran know that I served, and it opens up the doorway. And back to the public perception of veterans, perhaps the federal government, state, and the city as well, government in general should create public service announcements, putting a spin on us and putting us into a better light. Prior to World War II, we were considered admirable. 50% of Congress during World War II served. You could probably count them, how many people served on two hands today. And we have to take a reflection of how did we get there. And then lastly, the PACT Act. It's something that I really want to talk about. It's an actual law. It was voted for bipartisan, and it's very underutilized, and it's very misinterpreted. And I'm asking that a bipartisan committee come together and reevaluate what the PACT Act is, and is it being utilized for what it was. But this, I digress. I'm going to my next question. So the next question, I'm going to go to Andrea, then Donna, and then Josh. And the question is, how can we help veterans get the healthcare service that they need?
So I keep hearing, and I don't know how much truth there is to this. I've been told by several people in the VA that they are not allowed to advertise. We are not allowed to advertise their services, which I think is just absolutely ridiculous. The only way to connect with veterans is allowing them to see in the general public what the VA offers, and in very clear, concise language, what is available to them. There are some laws that have happened here in New York State that lack clarity, and I think if the VA was allowed, permitted to advertise, that would be really useful. People talk about obtaining information of veterans when they get out, and I'm very against that, because a lot of people that get out of the military are not okay with continuing on that feeling of service and feeling like they have to report to someone or someone's reaching out to them. And instead of doing that, why not allow the VA to advertise their services? I just gotta go back, because I think this is important and it's a little bit off topic. People don't realize that directors for a very long time were receiving year-end bonuses for cutting services for veterans. In the year of 2024 and 2025, it was about $11 million worth of bonuses. People say the VA is a runaway train, but this has been going on for a long time. During COVID, Montrose, Bronx shut down, and they got away with it. People were sent to work from home. They called themselves emergency services. They weren't available after a certain time. You were sent away. So a little bit of oversight and accountability, consequences should be implemented. But other than that, also making sure that your VSOs and your government has the proper tools to inform veterans what is available to them in very clear language. Not everybody qualifies for everything across the board. It doesn't work that way. There is a program called Squares offered by the VA, and if anyone's interested in government, police departments, all they would have to do is take the training. It's a service offered by the VA. You plug in the veteran's social security number, and they should be able to pull up what that veteran is eligible for. So that's a piece of information that people should know.
Thank you. I guess the piggyback of that is we have to remove the friction in every step. We have to be able to, like Andrea said, tell the veterans what they're eligible for. Utilize Squares. We utilize it in the city. We give our city partners access to it so that they can run it. DHS, which is a major intake center for veteran homelessness, run everybody through it when they come into the system to see if they're a veteran. So that's one step that how we're helping, to identify and let people know what they're eligible for. But when it comes to the healthcare system, you're right, the VA don't advertise their services. They don't let people know what they're eligible for until they get into the system. And that's something that we have to counteract before. When people coming off active duty or out of service, during that transition period, have a representative there from the VA. Have someone there that can talk to them and let them know if they're eligible for services.
It was the Rough Rider himself, Teddy Roosevelt, who said, complaining about a problem without a solution is called whining, right? And I think clearly nobody on this panel falls into that category, am I right? Am I right? Now, the VA serves somewhere between 6 and 9 million veterans and family members. So it can be difficult if you're going to tackle that problem when you're looking at that number. So as it was mentioned earlier on, one of my solutions is to start locally. Because as Andrea said, and I think she was being kind, she said, some laws lack clarity. And I think you're being kind when you're saying some of the laws lack clarity. There are many towns and cities, especially here in Westchester County, that had Veterans Advisory Councils. Two of the local state senators, Shelley Mayer, Pete Harcum, they both have Veterans Advisory Councils. And these councils meet regularly. Post 9/11 veterans now serve at the County Veteran Service Agency, at the Mount Vernon Veteran Service Agency, and the New York City councils. And we learned from Vietnam veterans. We learned that keeping quiet is not an option. And we learned, like Gerard said, inaction is not an option. Because inaction will lead to that whining and will lead to being forgotten. And veterans and family members cannot, should not, and will not be forgotten. So get involved and make sure your voice is being heard.
So now we're going to move over to this an exciting part where we're actually engaging with you guys, right? So this is a question in a Q&A. I'm going to ask respectfully there's microphones on each end of the aisle. If you want to ask a question and you can walk, please do so. If you can't, just raise your hand and someone will bring it to you. And I respectfully ask that you keep your questions at a minute short, please.
Tom? Thank you. I really appreciate the panel's work, and you hit on some points that are just
right on the money. So thank you for your thinking and your good ideas. I just wanted to say a couple of things. One is I've been a denizen of a vet center for about 20 years, and there's plenty of room at the vet center in Valhalla for more people, and it's a wonderful place because there a vet is going to get recognized and is going to be able to communicate with people who understand. So keep that in the back of your mind. If you can shoe somebody there, that would be good for them. Secondly, a lot of the solutions are difficult because they involve a lot of big-time infrastructure. And with that, I would just add, when was the last time you tried to find a parking place at the Bronx VA? I know people who won't go there for help because the parking is so difficult. And so they either go elsewhere or they go to their civilian counterpart. Now, one of the things that could help is if somebody would be designated as a parking counselor. We're talking about we can't change the structure, we can't change the structure, we can change the guidance. And I think on a lot of these issues, that's what you have suggested, and I think that's a good answer. Secondly, I was at an appointment yesterday, and I was owed some travel money. Now, it's not much money, but I always like to apply for the travel money because if I don't, nobody else will, and the system will fall through the cracks. Okay? So I went online. Oh, I'm so sorry. I went online to do it. It is so cumbersome and so complicated. It would be easier to shoot somebody to the moon than do that. Now, the good news is I got somebody on the phone to help me, but the problem was so complex that they couldn't. So I spent 3, 4, 5 hours working with my computer, and I finally got it to work. Now, and the system was in large measure the problem. It was a bad system. It was done by people, and I guess the good. I'm hurrying. Okay. Steve Jobs, when he did Apple, at the time there was the IBM system, and to move the cursor, you had to do Control Alt, and stuff. It was just a mess. Steve Jobs wouldn't put up with that, and he kept going, making his people go back and simplify, make it work for an idiot, okay? And that's what made Apple the company that it is today. Period. End of story. So that needs to be done somehow with the VA. It needs to be humanized.
Thank you. I'm going to give, I think Josh wants to
Can we just get your name, sir?
Yes. Rod Carlson.
Ron, thank you for your service. I think what you're addressing goes right to what Andrea had said earlier, is that the change in guidance, more training for the VSOs, I think would be great for this, to be able to set the veterans up for success when they're going to the VA, when they're making these appointments. And to her other point, you're spot on today, the parking or the travel money is very easy if you're using the app. However, how many people are able to use the app, right? So these types of things should be automated. I completely agree with you. If they know you have an appointment and you made your appointment, these types of things should be automated already. So I wrote that down, and that's something I'm going to put forward as well.
Thank you, Josh.
Yeah. I get you.
The place wasn't in there. So, anyway.
Next question.
Good morning. Thank you for having us here. I appreciate all of you on the panel. My name is Amjad Mujahi, the veteran advocate in the Bronx. And several questions I want to put forward to you to consider regarding the health and wellness of veterans in our area. Number one, transitional veteran housing. I speak about this a lot in the Bronx, but I want to bring it to your attention here. There is need for oversight by biannual inspections of these nonprofits who have the transitional housing, because many of them fall short of their contract. They have faulty elevators, not enough wellness check. staff that don't understand veteran culture or how to properly provide services to veterans. And in many cases, veterans have died in their apartments in these places without even knowing until you smell the body. That is unacceptable and that needs to be addressed. In addition to that, better trained social workers and understand military culture and respect, maintenance and upkeep, as I was saying about the properties, especially the elevators where disabled veterans cannot get out of their house. They're homebound and they can't go grocery shopping or go to their appointments. These are real issues that are facing veterans. Another thing, veteran caregiver program. There needs to be more support for it, education to the veteran community, and also service delivery and support for caregivers for veterans, right? A lot of them don't know where to turn to when there's something going on with the veteran that they love and care for, whether it be a family member or a friend, etc. This is an important issue that needs to be reviewed and addressed. Aside from that, veteran housing vouchers. Many of you may know that Section 8 program needs revamping, and a lot of landlords are no longer accepting the Section 8 vouchers. Outside of the HUD VASH voucher, many veterans may not qualify for that. So something needs to be done about that to make it more competitive, where landlords will accept it, because there's a lot of veterans who are going homeless because they can't get no place that will accept their vouchers outside of the HUD VASH. That is another critical issue, and that's increasing the homeless in the New York tri-state area. Excuse me. Health and wellness services for veterans and their families don't qualify for medical services at the VA hospital. For that segment of the population that do not qualify for those services, what relationships and collaborations do the VA have with outside community medical services that they have a relationship with, that understand the culture of veterans and their families, and they can be referred to those areas where they can get services? Many people don't know where to turn if they don't qualify for the services at the VA. And the last thing I'll bring to your attention, thank you. Prepare for the upcoming phase of the draft potentially and the war itself. We're going to have a lot of people coming back to the New York tri-state area. What's the plan to help them to transition in an equitable way? You got to take this serious. This is the elephant in the room. Do not deny this, and we need to work together to put a plan in place so that there won't be chaos in our cities and our towns. Thank you for listening, and appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I appreciate you as well. I just want to talk to something that you just spoke to. So, veteran issues are a federal issue. I'm sure you know that. And our housing or our benefits reflects really the type of discharge that we receive. I personally propose that the state steps in as well and create a mirror to what the federal government is doing, because right now they're not treating us very well. This isn't, by the way, this administration didn't create this problem. They've been the most administration to expose how much we don't really value our veterans. But every administration prior to that just chipped away at benefits that veterans earned. And I gotta continue to say, we've earned these benefits.
Yes. Yes.
This isn't a hand up or a handout. It's something that's earned, and we got to keep the needle on the record with that. But to your point, housing vouchers, there should be a shared responsibility within the state. I'm sorry. Who has another question?
We deserve. I'm Travis Melby. Going back to some of the stuff for the CP exam that was talking about how far some of the veterans have to travel. So the reason why that's being allowed is that the third-party contractors that the VA hires are allowed to have appointments up to 2 hours away from wherever your home address is. Now, this rule was initially set up with good intentions to help the rural veterans still be able to have access to their appointments. However, it failed efforts to address the vast majority of veterans that live in and around urban environments, and therefore that 2 hours is a very unreasonable expectation for most of the veteran population in America, not just New York. I think that if it could be changed for people that live in counties of over a certain size to be able to reduce it to an hour, I think that's much more reasonable for a veteran population. Yes.
Just a heads up, if you're doing a CMP and you're being sent halfway around the world, and you ask that contractor, whoever it is, BEC, QTC, hey, this is too far from me, you have to reasonably accommodate, or I don't drive, they have to accommodate. Now, what these contractors like to do is say, well, we're gonna consider this a cancellation. You're only allowed 2 cancellations before we close your claim, right? So if that contractor refuses to oblige, you turn around, call the benefits hotline, and you tell that counselor that you need to work either with another contractor or that they should set up your CMP at your local hospital or at a CBOC. And that does not constitute a cancellation. You're asking for something called a reasonable accommodation.
You're of course absolutely right, but the problem is a lot of the veterans don't know that, or it delays their CP exams by a significant amount of time. And that's a real issue because the lack of knowledge, unfortunately, hurts our veterans.
Right, that's right. And this is one of those things, but you have to insist. And you will see how magically QTC or BES call you either the next day or within an hour, accommodating you. Oh, we have a doctor in Portchester, or we have a doctor in Mamaroneck if you're here in Westchester. It happens all the time, just so you know.
Any other questions?
How you doing? I'd like to say I've really never dealt with the veteran agencies before until I had a fire and I lost everything, and then I had to start dealing with head things like that, and started dealing with housing issues with veterans and things like that. And it was mostly medical. But then I went to the VA in the Bronx also, understanding about the program. And I would like to have something here about learning for me. I don't know of any resources as far as medical. I don't want to go to the Bronx. I do love the Bronx, but I don't like to go there all the time. And I would like to have something, and I don't have any information. I don't have any knowledge. I walk around all day. I don't have any knowledge of most of the veteran agencies or who's a veteran and what they, offer. Ms. Molina's been awesome. I've walked in the City Hall, and she's helped me immensely dealing with her. But I don't know, and I would like to help, some veterans also, but I don't know where else to reach out to. Maybe y'all can help me out with that.
One of the things, it's imperative, there's a lot of veteran organizations here. We have VFW, we have American Legion. I'm also the regional commander for National Association for Black Veterans. It's imperative that you join these organizations because the bigger picture is that a lot of veterans from the Vietnam era are actually aging out, and then I guess my next generation would be Desert Shield, Desert Storm, but there's a big, huge disconnect with veterans, particularly the younger veterans and older veterans. The point that I'm trying to make is if we don't figure out a way to galvanize veterans, and I've been working on this. I started a campaign called End Veteran Poverty Now, because I look at poverty as the root of our problem, and it's not something that's just tangible where I could throw $1 billion at you. It starts here. It starts mental, and how we perceive certain things, how a veteran perceives himself, how does the general public perceive veterans. It needs to start there. But yes, if you start to utilize, if we could galvanize all of Mount Vernon, per se, right, and say, hey, we have a real need here, you force the hand of the federal government to say, we need a veteran, we need that service here. This is why it's important to fill out your census and all of those things. I digress.
I'm not sure if this is helpful, however, I am an ambassador and recipient for Tunzel Towers. I'm not sure if everybody really knows what Tunzel Towers is, but it's an organization that, for our catastrophic injured veterans, provide mortgage-free homes that are smart homes, and for families like myself, they pay off your mortgage for your house. And also they have a program for homeless veterans where they have social services, job assistance, mental health services. They have a list of services that they can provide you with assistance. And you don't have to be a catastrophic injured veteran to receive support. They'll still give you some type of support in some way. Also, I'm an ambassador for, well, right now, the only ambassador in New York for the Institute for Veterans and Military Families. And they have various programs that you can be around veterans, a lot of veterans, if you want to receive additional education, change a career, receive certifications, or even build a business. And all those services are free, and they will pay for your travel and your hotel stay. So that, I don't know if that's beneficial, but I'm just putting it out there.
And I also think that we can't let the perfect get in the way of the good. The VFW may not be the place for you. The American Legion may not be the place for you. But join, go, see what it's like, see if there's change that can be made there. However you learned about this meeting, whether you're on the Congressman's committee, whether you know Andrea, or you know the County Veteran Service Agency, or what have you, hop on those listservs. You're gonna find those organizations. Now there are a few changes here, whether it's some changes in the city or some changes here in the county, but get on those listservs, join those groups, because one group may not be the one for you, but there is one for you out there. And if there's not, come to us, we'll help you create it. I mean, that's what we're all about, right?
Any other questions?
Can I add, so let me speak from the civilian world, non-VA provider side. In the metro area, in this New York City and nearby, I've been fortunate to be able to be part of like the three big ones, and I can assure you that the system under NYU, the system under Well Cornell, the system Presbyterian, some of the system under Northwell Health, where I work now, these are veteran-friendly organizations. And what I mean by that is they have built in some resources, in some cases very specific, exactly to coordinate and integrate with whatever the VA can or cannot offer. And this is one of the outcomes of the VA Mission Act that open up the integration of community-based services into the VA system. Just to give you an example, Northwell Health has a dedicated, run by veterans, military liaison office, and their purpose is not just for the employee, which they help, but if you call it like, hey, I'm struggling, I'm closer to a Northwell facility that, or I cannot get to my VA, etc., they will help you to navigate that process within Northwell and outside Northwell. There's also a significant number of specialized, and I'm more familiar with the behavioral health side, in these institutions that offer, in some cases, free out-of-charge services for veterans, regardless, not combat veterans or 30 days overseas cumulative, but National Guard reservists, etc., which is another beast. NYU has a military family clinic. Northwell has the Center for Trauma, Stress, Resilience, and Recovery. And these are entities that, because they're under the federal oversight in a way, have designed these programs to be as transparent as they can be and as like veteran service focused. It's not for profit, as I say, there's no money in many of the cases. But it's the commitment to the veteran population and the family. So I encourage you to go on the website, look Northwell, look NYU School of Medicine / Langone, go for Will Cornell. They have a large number of services that get integrated with the VA. I work at Phelps in the outpatient clinic. I treat veterans there. It's easy for them to come to us than it is to go to some other location. So these are TRICARE friendly organizations, and again, these are services that have been going on since 9/11 in many cases, or like the origin of it. So they have a lot of time and tested endurance.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think this was meant to be the end all. I'm sorry, is there any more questions?
Good morning. Thank you, panel, for being here today. I really appreciate you all. My name is Colby Jenkins. I'm the founder of Dare to Be Different Westchester, a nonprofit organization here in Westchester County. But I am also the daughter of a Silver Star veteran, who is the late Oliver Jenkins. I'm his proud daughter. My father, Oliver Jenkins, was at the VA hospital on December 3rd of 2025 after a wellness check from one of the agencies that was governing over him, such as the Services for the Underserved and another organization, who did a wellness check and determined that he needed to go to the VA hospital because of his mental capacity at the time. My father was sent home that very morning after leaving, after coming to the emergency room. And when he was sent home in the very early hours of the morning, after 7 a.m., freezing cold, wrapped in a sheet, no shirt on, only his underclothes on, sent from the VA hospital in the Bronx, just like that. When my father got home, he was met by his roommate, who was not a caregiver. He was then given to the roommate and put in his room, and my father later on had to use the restroom where his roommate helped him, who's not a caregiver, to that restroom. And my father succumbed to his, whatever they said he died from, which they said it was like a heart attack or whatever it was. But his wraparound services did not get in place. There was a gap there in his wraparound services that should have been in place before he left the hospital. He died at St. Barnabas. He was pronounced dead at St. Barnabas Hospital not even 24 hours later of him leaving the emergency room of the VA hospital. We need better care for our veterans. My father served in the Vietnam era. My father was a sharpshooter because I got his records back. It was so hard as a daughter, as me and my siblings tried to obtain his DT 214 form. My father laid in a morgue because we could not get his paperwork. We could not obtain it. We kept doing everything that we possibly could, at least I did. And finally, my father was able to be laid to rest late January of this year. And he was able to go into Calvinton National Cemetery, laid to rest with dignity. He was able to have a beautiful military service in the Bronx. I'm not just here advocating for my father, I'm advocating for others that look like my father, others that look like me, that are struggling because we as a family, we don't know how to take care of our family's business when they have mental capacities, when they have mental health issues, when the agencies that are governing over them, that are receiving federal funding to take care of them are not doing their jobs properly. They should be defunded because they're not doing their jobs properly. sure you know their emergency contact, who's their family, in case something jumps off. That's why we are still struggling. That's why we have yet to get into my father's room, still to this day. And he's been dead since December 4th of 2025. Because there's no accountability. My father was not just a sharpshooter, but he also trained for drug treatment. He also was a chef. Now y'all know where I get it from. So I'm just saying, there's so many things that we may not know that we can definitely advocate for. And one of the things is, and I'm going to say it, let's end veteran poverty now. Now. And let's really put some systems in place that is not going to just help also the veterans, but help the families of the veterans so that we know how to navigate this system so that we can help our family members. My father did not have to die. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to add something quickly here. This is one of the reasons why we go back to what we just learned. People like Joe Mello, there are many civilians who, like my sister,
Joe served.
right? No. In terms of groups outside of the VA, the vet centers, they've been doing a lot of. Sorry. But yes, outside of the VA, the VSO, not vets. So this is one of the things that that we need to do. We need to get this out, because outside of the VA, we really need to to connect our civilian population.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Hi, thank you all for doing this today. My name is Ben Ronnie. I'm a resident of Dobbs Ferry here in Westchester. I'm commander of Post 200 VFW in Hastings-on-Hudson. I represent veterans in the river towns. I'm going to try to keep my thoughts organized because I have a very pointed question. I'm a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I'm a permanent and total disabled veteran, and a great deal of frustration in dealing with the VA is in the fragmentation. There are, I don't even know how many, I'm going to say more than half a dozen, but I have no clue, different healthcare programs, right? You have TRICARE, you have whatever it is that I have, that I don't even know what it's called, VA Health, I guess. There's also another VA Health, doesn't matter. My kids have Champ VA. We're all in a different system. We all have a different set of reporting, we all have a different set of eligibility and requirements, and the VA doesn't necessarily even know what those are, right? If I call the VA and say, where's my reimbursement for my kid's ENT appointment, they say, what kid? Like you don't have TRICARE. Or if I go to the doctor and they say, okay, what insurance are you using? And I say VA healthcare. They say, I have your TRICARE number. It's okay for the doctor's office not to necessarily know what these things are, but the VA itself doesn't necessarily know what these things are. And I went to Columbia University on the post 9/11 GI Bill. I've tried to keep in touch with the Columbia veteran community very closely, and a very strong veteran community there. But young people don't join things, right? We know that. I'm in the VFW, and I'm the youngest person in that VFW by a lot of years. But they're going to start joining these things because they're going to need healthcare, and they're going to need somebody to help them figure that out. And they're going to look at me and say, "You've been doing this for a long time. What the hell do I do?" And I'm going to say, "I don't know, because I'm struggling myself." The only interaction I've ever had with the VSO was years ago when I tried to make a disability claim with DAB, actually at the time. It doesn't matter, pick your favorite. And their response, their way of helping me was to send me a link to the website where I can submit paperwork to the VA. And that's about all they were capable of doing at the time. So I don't really know what a VSO does.
and I'm interested, is in Westchester. Let's keep this focused to us today, right? Because I have people that are going to look to me, I'm going to look, including my own kids, right? At how do we navigate these systems? Who do we look to in Westchester to help us talk to the VA, to help us speak intelligently with knowledge, to say yes or no, or that's the wrong phone? When I have a primary care visit coming up to the White Plains clinic in a couple of weeks, and when I call the main number, the main direct line that's on the VA's website, it rings and rings and rings and rings and rings for about 2 minutes, and finally somebody picks up and she says, no, you've got the mental health department, you need to call the front desk. Okay, so she transfers me to the front desk, it rings for 2 minutes, and I get her again. So, what, and you already pointed out the phone fiasco, so I won't harp on that. My question is, in Westchester, is it a VSO? Are we supposed to find a VSO buddy to say, I can't figure out how to get this very simple thing. This person says I need this form, the website says I need that form. Help me figure out what's true. Who do I come to in Westchester? Because it's obviously not the VA themselves, right? The people on the phone, bless their hearts, they're doing what they can with the knowledge they've got and the resources they've got. They're not, there's no ill will here, or ill intent, sorry, that's what I mean. But in Westchester, we're more local. We have the ability to be more personal. Is that something that we can get here? I'm literally asking that question.
Sure, and one of the things, I keep speaking for you tonight, one of the things that Andrea always says is that our frontline people need more training, and that starts there. And Helen, if you could just pass that little microphone to Travis right here. Travis, I'm gonna let you take the first stab at this and pick up, he has his appointment at White Plains Clinic. What should he also do that day?
I'm sorry, what?
He has his appointment at White Plains Clinic. You should come on over to 10 County Center Road, Suite 204.
Yep. I am a VSO. And myself and a fellow VSOs, we often can help you with our primary function as a VSO is to help veterans navigate the VA system for filing VA claims, helping with the paperwork, either directly or indirectly. It's up to the veteran as far as that. And most of the time, I file the paperwork on behalf of the veteran after I get a power of attorney, and help walk the veterans to make them have a better understanding of what's actually needed, realistic expectations. I won't estimate VA timelines because that doesn't do me any good, but I try to walk the veteran through the whole process. And if I don't know the answer directly, I try to call some of my colleagues, either in office or somebody like Andrea, or reach out to various other resources, or point you to other offices. Say, oh, well, I can help you with this part, but I can't. The truth is the VA system can be hard to navigate, and it does take a village, so to speak, to help navigate it at times, but with asking the right questions, not getting frustrated, and understanding that we can help you quite a bit. I'm happy to give you my number and email, and I'm happy to talk to you or any of your constituents. I'll even go to the one of your meetings one of these days if you want. I'm happy to do so. Thank you.
Yeah, but if you're calling our office every single day, that's okay. Literally, that's what we're here for. We'll connect you with community resources. If not, we'll reach out to the Congressman's office and say, hey, is there a national organization that's doing this as well? But that's our job, to know these organizations, to know which ones are the ones that are effectual, which ones are not, which ones are lacking. Excuse me, so we don't want to send you somewhere that's going to run you in circles again. Because I'll lose my mind if that happens to me. So, and I'm semi-professional, so so I understand that struggle. And at the very least, start with one of these organizations, come in for coffee, something like that, because that's what we're here for.
Good morning. I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for being a part of this discussion panel this morning. My name is Reverend Martel Penn Jr. I am presently the chaplain working under Ms. Molina of the Mount Vernon Veterans Affairs. And I have a problem with the VEST evaluation service. When I first got out of the military, a short while ago, and I went to the VA, and greeted very graciously. The gentleman that, when I went in to put in application, he said to me, "Oh, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think you just want to get a check from the government every month." Well, I was only 22 years of age, and I didn't take much of anything at that time. And so I told him where he could go, and I left. And I didn't go back to the VA for over 20 years before I went back. And they put in, American Legion put in a claim for me at that time when I went back. And I've been at 10% from that time until just very recently, another claim was put in. And I understand that I've been elevated from 10% up to 60%. But my problem is this: I never knew the extent of my injury and of my disability. But I knew that I had been in constant pain from the moment I left the military until this present day. And I was being treated with acupuncture treatment and various prescription medication. I presently have to wear a leg brace, a knee brace, and a back brace every day. And I have been like this for many, many years. In fact, when I first got out, because I walked away from the VA, I got back bracelets made for me by a private company that my dad at that time happened to be working for. It was called Pomeroy Surgical Supply Company in Brooklyn, New York. And they made it free of charge. They made the bracelet things for me free of charge because of my father being an employee and had been with them for over 25 years at that time. And so today I am still, puzzled why there is a medical report from a medical review that was dated October 25th of 2013. And in there, the neurologist that one of them had been treating me stated that my injury is definitely service connected, and that apparently while I was being operated on in the military, that they somehow damaged the nerves in my lower spine. And this is what had caused the condition that I've been suffering with ever since. I now have what they call drop foot. Now all of this came on all of a sudden. And I don't think it's fair because I know veterans that suffer a lot less than I do and didn't go through what I did surgically and whatever. And they're at 100% or 85 and 100%. And I don't think it's fair. There's something radically wrong. If it says right in that medical review that it's service connected and that it was a fault of these people that operated on me, I was operated on in the St. Augustine Naval Hospital. Maybe it was because I was Army that day. I'm just making light up. That's how I keep on trying. I get built up. And so I just feel that there ought to be some other way that something could be done in way of reviewing things, because I don't think that in my particular case that it was fairly reviewed. And they said sometimes they can send you as much as 100 miles away for evaluation appointment. And that's not fair to do it either. So I just want to find some way we can.
Thank you for that. And you're absolutely right. There needs to be better transparency in the VA. And these are things that we need. This is why we need to galvanize. And you saying this by yourself holds very little to no power. But if we echo all of this together, it roars like thunder. And I'm sorry, you do deserve better.
Good afternoon, everyone. Okay. My name is Asha Casper Hernandez. I am a military advisor and foreign policy advisor to Citizen Task Force for George. And also, I am an active reservist, so my views do not reflect the U.S. government. No, oh, cut off when I said that. Okay, so I have a recommendation and I'm seeking for a comment here. I personally think that we are prepared for the administrative fiasco that's coming. Just yesterday, he's an appointee, but the Secretary of Navy had to resign. We lost the Army Chief of Staff, the Army PAO, all these generals, and underneath those levels, a lot of people are either leaving the armed forces or getting kicked out, and disproportionately impacting women, people of color. So it's a mess, it's an administrative mess. And my recommendation is, of course, this group should stay in touch with people like me as far as providing insight. In other words, I would recommend talking to the reservists, the National Guardsmen, those on AD, active duty, so as far as situation where you get ahead of this problem, because it's moving quick. I just met a talented colonel and sergeant major that the colonel was up for promotion and said, "Are you staying?" And they said, "No, I don't like the leadership right now." Right? And then there's a mental health component here to this as well. So that's my recommendation. But as far as my question for the group, going back to women, George has been phenomenal in supporting women in the armed forces. In fact, he co-sponsored Women in Combat. Yes. We were very active in supporting that because President Obama actually certified it, but this is being rolled back by PXF. So my question is how can the VA better protect women's administrative records, services that we provide right now, because I think that's also a major concern. Thank you.
That is very good. Thank you. I think I'm the only woman combat veteran here, right?
Nope.
So I'll let you answer that one first. Please, ma'am.
I would say, first we have to get our women to identify, because identification for us is very hard. We experience different things in the military, sexual traumas, mental traumas, physical, and once we get out, we don't want to subject ourselves to the VA, anything to do with the military. But for me, when I talk to women that's coming in, is giving them a safe space. Giving them a safe space and letting them know that they're okay. Identifying that I am also a veteran. I've also experienced different things throughout my career, and I'm here to help, and you're not alone. So for me, it's just, providing a safe space. The Bronx VA has a women health program that's very good. Jade and her team over there is amazing with providing mental health, safe spaces, and stuff like that. And I think just us coming together, putting our differences aside, and loving on each other, if I can say that, but loving on each other and making sure that my sisters in arms are in a good space so that they can get the mental health, and the care that they need.
So for me, I am a big believer of peer work, and I think a strong women's program would be even more strong. Yeah, stronger. If a woman veteran was at the helm, Montrose at one point had 2 women leading the veterans program. One was a civilian, the other one was a veteran, and I think she was a naval doctor, and it was great. But I encountered a lot of empty promises from the Bronx VA, such as safe spaces for women, waiting areas. The doors were always locked, never available to women to sit away from the general population. I saw the doors locked quite often. No one knew where the key was. The mammogram Didn't work. We had to go outside. They did this whole, dog and pony show, ribbon cutting, and the machines are not working. No one's trained. Good luck. Go outside. These are empty promises over and over, and it's okay for someone that's not really invested in women veterans, but when you have another woman veteran leading a woman veteran program, there's passion and just a little, gusto behind it, and that wouldn't have been okay, I feel, had it been a woman leading the women veteran program. So I transferred over to Montrose. They do have 2 civilians, and they're very dedicated, but there's that whole cultural thing missing. So I'm all about women veteran program at the VA, led by a woman veteran. That's what's missing. And if we write letters to the director, like I like to do, certified mail, email with the timestamp, that's also very useful. Fill his office, give him something to do aside from collecting year-end bonus for cutting our services.
And I just want to chime in real quick. And I'll be real quick. I just can't wait till the day we have a woman for Secretary of the VA. And that's the thing that's really needed.
We're going to wrap up real soon. I think we have one quick comment. I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that everyone in this room knew that because of the situation with my father, we have added an arm extension to our organization where we're helping veterans and veteran women in particular. So I just wanted to make sure that they knew that we are going to have services such as our Greenberg Farmers Market, where people that are veterans can come and access fresh produce in the community. They can also access goods through our office in Sleepy Hollow, diapers such as formula, light clothing, and other home essentials that will be provided absolutely free. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. My name is Millicent Mangos, Deputy Director of Community Affairs for the Office of the Bronx Borough President, and I would like to sincerely thank Congressman George Latimer and his team, the Mayor Patterson Howard, and all the Roundtable participants for the invitation today. I learned so much. I have the privilege of working closely with Kevin, Renee, Amjad, Joe Bello. Everybody knows Joe. Today is half a Joe because we don't have Mrs. Bello here today, who is also a big advocate for women veterans. I truly look forward to continuing to learn and collaborate on ways we can improve, and I think the next one we should invite Dr. Banagana to come and speak on behalf of the hospital, because we need to know what they're doing, because when we go, we hear all the good stuff, but then that information needs to be spread, and who better than him himself. So let's work on the next one to have him come and answer some of these questions. But again, thank you to all the soldiers here for your service. You are loved, we have your back, and we will continue to support you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this has been, I'm sorry that we've unfortunately run out of time.
I don't have anything like important to say. I just wanted to put out that the VA hospital in the Bronx is giving out vegetables once a month. And today, from 12, I don't need that. Today, from 9 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you can get vegetables. That's all.
And proteins.
And proteins. But it's once a month. It comes from the Amish, from upstate, and beautiful vegetables.
Yes.
The Bronx.
Just like the Bronx Medical Center.
So I would just like to close by thanking our esteemed panel today. Really fabulous group: Dr. Jeffrey Brown, Josh Gaccioni, Kevin Meggett, the leader of our panel, Andrea Molina, Dr. Mecca Nelson, Gerard Placid, Dr. Pablo Sanchez, Barranco, and Donay Smalls. Thank you for leading this. Thank you all for coming on behalf of Congressman Latimer. We have taken notes. We are very interested in this dialogue continuing. And thank you all again for taking part today. And the staff will sort of hang around for a little bit longer if you have any questions or anything further you want us to convey to the Congressman. So thank you and have a good afternoon.
Spread the word. The man is giving you some really good vegetables. I did it last month, and I'm about to go there now.